All right.
Cool.
Sweet. So, welcome to another episode of Tech Packs Are Due. So that camera is our wide angle. That's the one we are talking to.
Okay.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Except it will at some point. Anyway, okay. So, welcome back to another episode. This is, I don't know what number. That's where we are now. I think 23, 24.
Moving on up.
Yeah.
The numbers keep coming.
Yeah. And we're still here. So that's something. Yeah. So we are the Footwear Design Podcast. Just because there isn't another one.
So it's like you say one and only, right?
For now, right? For now. There are other podcasts that talk sneakers and all that stuff, but we're the nerdy design one, which is great. All right. And before we get going too far, as always, I feel like I have to say it. Everyone has to say it. Like and subscribe to the page, to the whatever. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're in Spotify and not Apple yet, but that's another situation.
Another hill to climb.
I'm getting on that, but Spotify and YouTube. It's actually being great being on YouTube because we can. I really think the sketching portion is super cool, and that's only really helpful on YouTube and. Yeah, whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, YouTube's great.
Yeah.
Everyone has YouTube going on in the background while they're doing tech packs.
Right.
At least from my experience. Yeah. Just throw something like some ambient hiking or ambient nature video, and but
nice.
sketching video is good too. Yeah.
We had I had a manager that watched like car repair and like.
Wow.
Car replacement.
That's another common one. Another designer from New Balance, Chase Robinson. That's like all he did would watch like repairs for tools, like chainsaw tool repair.
What?
Chase, if you're listening, like throw a comment in the chat about the guy that you watch. It's, he's great.
I promise you, he's not watching unless you tell him, hey, we are up to 135 subscribers.
Hey, there we go.
Which is like more than I thought would ever happen. But hey, we're moving. We're at one point we were averaging a subscriber a day, which I was like,
yeah.
How is this possible? Like, who are these people?
It's a snowball. Yeah, right. Snowball's it's rolling.
You make it, and they will show up.
Absolutely. There's an audience for everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we might have an episode before this comes out, but and we're in the process of maybe doing a recap. But the last person in your seat was Mike Friton.
Yikes. I wish I wasn't following that.
The last person was Mike Friton. Yeah. So, and that was fun.
Is it getting hot in here, or is it just...
Yeah, right. Mike, he, like, the more I talk to him, I've talked to him a couple times over my career. The more I talk to him, the more I realize that he knows, and the more I realize how, like, I feel like sometimes I'm serious about footwear. I'm serious about sketching, serious about what I do. But like, I feel like to him, it's like he's dedicated most of his life, like a ton of his life to this. And he cares about the performance so much, like
the performance of the product that he works on. Okay.
Yeah. Like even like in all shoes, like he has a hard time with where footwear goes because it's so commercial and so
wow,
all
a purist.
Things.
I love that.
It's very much that, and like every time I talk to him, it's like, dude, like
just reignites the fire.
Yeah, right. And but it's also like a return to like almost like those first principles of like making any product. It's like, who's it for? What's it do? And like, what's the simplest form you can get it to? Like that type of thing is like who he is to his core. And just hearing like how he was at Nike and would make, like, he would go around to like designers tables, hear their ideas, and then would go make their stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
to like to share with them?
Yeah.
Is this episode out?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm bad. I haven't listened to it, but I'm going to immediately after this.
He would make models of like other people's stuff and like put it on their desk and be like, what do you think?
Oh, that's so sick.
I'm like,
it's like a design tooth fairy.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, he just had those skills. Like, he's built it up over years and years and years. He's
I want to
better
get to that point.
Yeah, he's better with a sewing machine than like, he might be as good as operators in Asia. You know,
Wow.
like he's just very technical, very model making, a maker. You know?
Oh, that's amazing. There's that level of skill and craftsmanship, I think is, I mean, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves with some of the questions we're going to be asking later, but like in my future state, I'm like, that's kind of the space I want to start moving towards of like, taking an idea, but then actualizing it with my own hands, you know?
Right.
I think there is like an interesting removal from designers that, or there's a trust and there's kind of a, what's the word? It's a trust and you need a partner, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you need a partner, and then from there, there's always going to be a back and forth and a, you know, conversation about how an idea kind of comes to life because of that. And sometimes I just want to like pull up and have a seat to be able to speak educatedly with people that are, you know, building the samples and building the shoes.
Oh, right.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm just vocalizing a KPI for myself, but that level of build is amazing. I love that.
It is. It's something. And the thing that he said that kind of blew my mind, and I've had this in the back of my head for a while, was he said designers nowadays are like, you know, they're like good illustrators.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dang it.
Wow. That one cuts.
That one hurts. But
yeah.
It like,
at the same time, man,
but
guy's got a point, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like, but I have to be able to draw the picture in order to, I don't know.
Both are incredibly needed. Absolutely. You know, like you need to be able to kind of like breathe life into an idea to, I don't know, create nuance or interest or, I don't know, capture attention.
Yeah. It's like, for some reason, there's just something about sketches that, like, you know, they just brings people in. And
yeah. I mean, there's a reason everyone, like, you know, you go to the, the Louvre, and there's Da Vinci's notebook, and there's like still sketches, and, you know, and everyone crowds around Da Vinci's sketchbook, and you're like, yeah, you could have like a, you know, ChatGPT could generate the same level of, like, you know, Da Vinci-esque, you know, illustration style of my sketch or whatever, and you can have something, but like the intrinsic humanness of that is really what.
Yeah, right.
People, it still resonates, you know.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic, but it's like we are on like the age of AI, and I'm like finding that I'm using AI more and more for just the most mundane things.
Same here. Oh man, yeah.
Like I'm
that
trying to.
Is a podcast, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to pick like a good beverage. Help me know which one has X amount of calories or caffeine or whatever, and it's like, here's, and I'm like,
thanks, ChatGPT.
Thanks, man.
This is a little alarming.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's that. Like, and I would say Mike is also one of those people, you can take his class. So go take his class.
I'm going to take his class.
Yeah, look it up. I think it's one of those ones where you could easily not only just take his class, but you can look him up, and you know, your whole department can take his class. I think he'd be really happy to have a lot of designers in, but and then so, and then if you guys really feel good, go and buy his slippers. He makes slippers.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. He's done it because he can make that stuff. Man, there's a fly bugging. Hey, dude.
Yeah, I can see it actually.
Hey. Oh, almost got him. Get out of here. Get out of here. Anyway, so yeah, you can buy they're called TOEFLs. TOEFLs? Yeah. Anyway.
Write that down too.
It's like shoes that I would only wear inside because they're like full suede.
Okay.
Yeah, like really interesting, kind of like Scandinavian looking.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, made with Pendleton scraps and stuff because he's
like real good quality.
He's
stuff.
good with he's good with Pendleton and talks to them all the time.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, very cool.
All right, well that's that. I mean, we're here. I knew it was always going to get to this point, but I feel like I have to say it. I have only talked to Seth via DMs.
Yep.
So this is
longtime follower, first time in IRL.
Yeah, right. And so it's like one of those things where I don't know what's going on, but we were going to get to this point eventually.
Yep.
That I don't know the guests. Everybody else I've known for a little bit at least. And so this is the first one that we're going to see what happens off the cuff.
Oh boy.
Can designers
commingle without prior
can designers come together and talk, and maybe this will be a whole nother spin-off or whatever, but can we come together, talk, have a good conversation that's high level? And that's what tech packs is all about. We've all made tech packs and we get it. And
it's the one thing that unites us all. The tech packs,
right?
The great unifier.
It's like we've all done it. All the creation comes to that point, but it's not about that. I would say, as kind of an intro to Seth, I was at Brooks when I first saw my first Seth Maxwell illustration rendering of a shoe, and that was the FuelCell Rebel. And
brought one of those samples in today.
Yeah, yep. And I about lost my mind because while you're working on that, I'm working on the Hyperion Tempo at Brooks.
Way, okay.
And so I see that shoe and
another
I'm like,
goated shoe. Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I was like, man, New Balance beat us to it again. And I was like, dang it. And so, yeah, I remember seeing that, and man, we had so many people running that shoe in the office, and they were like, why is this one better than ours? And I was like,
I love the Hyperion Tempo. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I get, and that's
always greener, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I was like, man, the Hyperion Tempo, I'm like, man, the crispness of these like execution of the midsole is like so like clean and like sharp.
Yeah, well, I did the second one, so I don't know. You might be talking about the blue one. The blue
one is cool. Yeah.
I did the second. The second one is, they just called it the Hyperion.
Okay. I'm going to pull this up right now. Just I'm curious.
I mean, we were chasing that Rebel as hard as we could chase it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I don't know, it helps if you want to help the aesthetics, you can always bring out your stuff and just set it in frame. Oh shoot!
Shoe and specifics. That's actually my wife's on ice pair.
Oh man, love it. We'll just arrange them any old way.
Brought that. I kind of brought this one too. We can kind of talk about it. This one wasn't produced, but it's like a sample.
Hey,
you know?
yeah. We'll just sit them in the shop. We won't talk about them yet.
Okay,
it's all good. Yeah, so awesome. These are so great. But yeah, like that was my first. I was like, man, who is this guy? And we all had to kind of like measure up to like that shoe, like what we're doing to each other all the way across the country. It's like, that's what was going on.
Oh, I think it's great though. You know, like, I mean, it's funny you mentioned this because I can't even tell you how many times we're in, this is a common thing amongst the industry, right? Every brand comes out with something and we're like, wow, that's like, why is our shoe not measuring up to this? I think like, the Levitates, I don't know which Levitates you worked on as well, but man, there were so many Levitates hanging around the office when we were working on some earlier 880s and 860s, which is just the New Balance Daily Trainer offering. And we're like, our foam isn't comparing to this, and it's like, it's a completely different animal entirely, but like that was the yardstick from which to start measuring our stuff too. So it's like,
oh, that's interesting.
Everything kind of comes around. But it's all great. I think like I always say like a high tide raises all ships, so like if you guys are doing some cool stuff and, New Balance is doing cool stuff, every brand, Nike, Asics, like everyone's doing cool things, that kind of gets everyone else to be like really fired up to push and continue to dig deeper,
Right. Yep. I mean, that's what happens is I always felt like I think I've mentioned this before on this show, but I've always thought like you'd be doing something and then Nike would just show up with like, I'll never forget the Alpha Fly. It was Alpha Fly. They had a spike, Alpha Fly. Something
Dragonfly.
Dragonfly.
Yeah.
They did them like all at the same time. It was like a basketball shoe was in there too for like whatever reason.
Wait, that was I think that was the 2020 Olympic pack, and they were going real hard on the Olympics. And then obviously something happened that year.
Yeah,
yeah. What that was.
Well, yeah, it was like the black and green.
Yeah, the black and green.
Yeah, it was like all black and green.
Those things were so spicy.
And I was like, this is gonna make my life so hard. I'm like, I wish they didn't do this.
And the footwear industry all over just shudders and kind of shakes their head.
Yeah, right.
Disparagingly.
But yeah, I will never forget this situation. So it's fun to be.
Wow,
it's funny.
Incredibly humbled to hear that.
Well, it's also funny to hear that you guys had similar experiences on the reverse side, because I just didn't believe it happened to me.
Really?
Yeah. Well, like to me, New Balance is another, like, I know a couple people there, but I haven't never really like, what's it like at New Balance? It's like, I've always thought, I met Jared Goldman.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've talked to like some of the, like, the leaders.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But it's like, but to me, I always think, and after I talked to him once, I was like, well, they don't look at any of this stuff.
They don't look at anything else. Yeah,
I'm like, New Balance is off on their own, doing their own thing, and they don't care about anything anyone's doing.
Right.
That was like the impression. It was like, oh, I'm going to get this thing.
It
keeps coming around.
Get your little buddy.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, he's hanging around. He likes the texture of these the foam mics. He was like flying around mine too.
All right.
But yeah, what you're describing, absolutely, and I give New Balance all the credit in the world. The design team is very much like, hey, let's just try to stay in our lanes. We have like some spaces that we're confident in and we feel pretty good about. But especially when it starts to kind of become commercial season and briefs start to be handed off, it's like, all right, we need to know what's out there. We need to know, like, are we in the ballpark anymore? Are we like, kind of off on our own course and not even close to the target that the rest of I was on the running team. Like the rest of the running segment was really, what they're becoming familiar with in terms of experiences and such.
Right.
So there's always a little bit of research, and when the research needed to be done, there was a lot of Brooks shoe boxes lying around.
Yeah. That is, I don't know if people realize how common that is. Like, we'll buy each other's stuff.
Oh yeah,
all the time, and
100%. Yeah,
because you have to know.
You have to know, and then everyone gathers around. Someone opens a box, and all of a sudden, it's like the most like interesting thing that happened in the office that day. Everyone gathers around, huddles around. They're like, "Oh, can I touch it? Can I see it?" Yeah.
Yep. We have stuff like that all the time, where it's like, yeah, what's the? I don't know. Sometimes, and at Brooks, it was funny because we would be like really nervous to like, well, I really want to get this basketball shoe because there has all these constructions on it. And we'd be nervous because they'd be like, why would you want a basketball shoe at Brooks?
Oh, really?
And you're like, because it's nice to look at other categories.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. I just want to round out the realm of possibility.
They're like, but you're not going to go running up the block in a basketball shoe. I'm like,
watch me.
I'm like, is that what it takes? Or it's like, no, I'd be like, well, I'm going to cut it apart. Is that going to make you happy? Like, no, you're going to go play basketball in it, because they would know, like, I play basketball. I'm like, okay, well, of course I'm going to play basketball in it.
I need to know if it works.
Well, of course I'm going to run it. Yeah, of course I'm going to play.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just the conversations you have to have.
Right, yeah. It's all for the love of the game,
Right. Sweet. All right. So everyone knows how this kind of breaks down. Obviously, I want people to understand who you are, how you got to be in design. Don't worry about that. Yeah, we'll go from kind of that intro to like pursuing design, like how you even found out, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of breaks into like you've landed it. Now, who have you become?
Yeah.
And then we talk about cool stuff. And
that's where things get interesting.
Yeah. And then then we talk about all the stuff, like we talk about these, cool. And then we will sketch, and we might try something different this time. Still on the fence, but either way, one of us is sketching.
Someone's sketching in this table.
We cannot leave without that. Sweet. So, all right. Yeah, so why don't you, I don't know, obviously take it away. I don't know. You don't have to go back to like childhood, but I guess we all kind of want to know how you got to, at least to knowing about design, or what path did you travel to that meandered to footwear. Like, I mean, my kind of thing is like, I found out about industrial design and I was like, sounds good.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, someone's drawing shoes over there. And my first professor was like, well, yeah, you can
do that
also
too.
Do footwear.
Yeah, right. So I was like, okay, lost another one.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, as soon as it happened, they were like, but you don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, I do. And then it was over. But
right.
But yeah, no, like, yeah, whatever you want to take us through.
I mean, I kind of always tell, the interest into design and footwear specifically. I kind of like, it's funny, I almost like have to take it back to childhood, because that's where the interest really kind of began for me.
Right.
And the more I've shared this story, the more I realize like it's actually pretty common, I think, amongst a lot of people, especially that are doing performance product. But I was 10 years old and I was really into skateboarding. X Games was really like super big, Street League, all the Mountain Dew tour, everything I was on TV was like, I mean, skateboarding was just had an absolute pivotal media moment in like the early 2000s.
That's right.
I was like riding that wave. I was like, this is the best thing ever. And at that age, I was starting to learn how to ollie, and you're just outside in the driveway, just like, you're not really making any progress, but you're constantly like abrading the shoe on the grip tape. So the shoes would just go through so quickly. Yeah. And my mom was always buying me new shoes, and 2 weeks later, burning through, holes through the shoes again. And I think it was about when I was like 11 or 12, she was like, that's it. Like, I know you're not growing anymore. Like, these holes on your shoes aren't from your feet getting bigger. Yeah. So like, you got to start doing your own chores and mowing people's lawns to to kind of make this. If you want to keep skateboarding, you gotta buy your own shoes now. And I was like, come on, like now I need to work in order to skate, And anyway, so that's what I did. It was mowing lawns, and I quickly learned how much effort it would take to buy these shoes that were like, it turns out, pretty darn expensive. And I just had this moment of like, okay, there's got to be a better way to make these shoes last. Like, I'm doing a lot of sweat equity to get this, get these shoes, and I'm still like only having like a week's worth of hanging out with friends in them. Yeah. And I think that was really kind of like the light switch moment of like, what can I do? How can these things be made better? And yeah, and I think I was always a kind of creative, person. I was always drawing and painting, and it also helped that the rest of my family is also like extremely practical and engineering based. My brother owns like a CNC technician shop. My whole family has a lot of like engineering kind of like which side of the brain is that? Left brain or right brain? The engineering side of the brain, a lot of that's going on. And so, I have a little bit of that in the bloodstream too. And so then just how do you, kind of problem solve shoes specifically, because I was interested in sports. And then also just pair this like creativity of like drawing and, having that experience and that exposure from what they were doing, or, from what their interests were. It kind of like industrial design was naturally like around the house. The Popular Mechanics magazines were always lying around the coffee table. Right. And fast forward, go through school.
Yeah. Did you actually start like taping up shoes, like, or adding stuff to like?
I was kind of just doing like the more like really rough and dirty. I was like shoe gluing parts on, I was cutting off parts of other shoes that I was like, on their way out. And then just like super gluing, overlay panels and stuff on. And I mean, it was like extremely rough, like, prototyping essentially.
Yeah. But just to keep the skating shoes going.
Just to keep them going as long as I could. So I'm like, Davis's yard isn't like ready to be mowed again. Like, I need to wait at least another week. He's got to hold out.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Okay, that's cool. Like, I don't think I've talked to anyone that has like a kind of a maker background or like hands-on.
I mean, hands-on is giving it a lot of credit. Like a teenager gluing stuff onto a shoe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but it is funny when I share that story. Like I have a lot of New Balance is a New England company. There's a lot of people that came from like LAX, lacrosse backgrounds, and they were like, oh yeah, I just wanted to have really good cleats. Baseball too. Like a lot of people that have done baseball were really into having really good stud designs on their shoes and stuff. And I was learning, I was like, oh yeah, that actually is like kind of a interesting crossover of like having it some athleticism, basketball for instance, in your case, like, just an interest there that kind of turns your focus and, I guess your awareness that shoes are something that someone needs to do it,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I always think like I want a basketball shoe to do X and Y, and I know what I want, but then I realize, I feel like I think basketball is like more complicated than maybe it probably is. And so I'm like, I don't want to touch it.
Okay.
I was like, I don't even know where to start to make a shoe grip better on the basketball floor versus like everyone says herringbone, but I've seen herringbone be terrible.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Like I've also seen, like I know how much cushioning I want and what I want the cushioning to feel like, but I don't know how to do it. And I'm not not gonna touch it. That's for sure.
It seems too much.
Yeah. Right. It's like, that's cool. But yeah, skateboarding though, it's like you could probably, just keep reapplying something to like a certain spot, and just like I could see like longevity continuing on as you abrade. Like I really feel like there's like two main spots on skateboarding.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I know
it's the ollie pad and like the very front of the toe where you're doing kickflips.
Yeah. I'm like, that's usually what people are doing, and they're wearing them out like.
Yeah, it's a soft material against sandpaper.
Literal sandpaper.
Yeah, it is funny that you kind of like look at this and you're like, this is literally the solution set that like we've relied on for skateboarding for 50 plus years, and you're like, well, it works.
Yeah. Right.
and who's to argue with that?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Sweet. So then what did you like? Okay. So how's that transition look from, talking about skateboarding, shoe hack, whatever you want to call it, but to like schooling, like how do you, you're saying, I like that your family has an engineering background. I think like, I didn't even have that. Like, like I had a brother who wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, cool.
A mom who didn't go to college, and a dad who was like, he actually was pretty hands-on and knew how to just like make stuff. But I don't think, and that probably did affect me in some way. Like, he like had enough knowledge to finish our basement.
Oh wow!
And it like never really clicked. Like, that's actually really cool.
It's incredibly impressive. Yeah,
like,
I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, like
I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, like, and he just knew how to do it. Like,
that's amazing.
He knew how to plumb it and run the electrical. And I'm like, and now that I'm older, I like look back and I'm like, man, I probably should have asked more questions. Well, that was going on.
It's funny because I think maybe all kids have that kind of realization when they get older. They're like, wow, like there was a lot of useful, like applicable skills that I just didn't think were applicable to me. Now I wish I knew it.
But yeah, so what does that look like? How do you transition that curiosity, family history, whatever it is, to like, I don't even know where you went to school. If you went to school, I don't even know. I don't know that either.
I went to a design school in Central Ohio. It was Cedarville University, and they had a small, like design program that was held in Columbus, Ohio. So Cedarville wasn't near Dayton, and Columbus, Ohio was more of like the hub of design to some degree. There was obviously OSU has a big program. CCAD, Columbus College of Art and Design. They're there as well. So I guess from, I mean, kind of like we were mentioning, I had an awareness, you know, like the light bulb switch of like, there must be a better way to make these, to make shoes, do the activity that I want to do. It was definitely kind of like more on the skater bum like side of the spectrum of just being interested in doing the thing just so I could continue to kind of skate and have fun. I think it was just a combination of knowing that if I wanted to do that, I would need to have some sort of schooling or some sort of like way to kind of formalize, and obviously schooling is it's a thing that's pushed. Having a degree is kind of the I guess a signifier that you're kind of like okay to hire in a corporate setting. And, I don't think I knew anyone specifically that was doing footwear design, but I remember it was around 2011 when I went to school. I think there was an article about a DC shoes designer. I think I remember his name, but I don't name drop just in case it's not the right one. And I think that was the moment where I was like, oh wait, here's the guy. There's his name, and he does this for a living, and I kind of want to be that guy.
Right.
And the design school I went to was certainly not set up to kind of deliver a footwear education, and it was very much a traditional ID program where you're learning about SolidWorks for the sake of designing the best Tide bottle that you possibly can, the best fabric softener in a bottle you can. Of course, there was also automotive, courses. There was, I think, exterior design courses, which was really actually interesting. I guess like traditional ID stuff. But I had expressed to my professor at the time that I was like, listen, I kind of want to do footwear. Like, is there more resources that I could have to kind of like start catering my own like development and program? And at the time, this was also way before Pencil, and some of the other programs and kind of like resources that are out there today, which it's incredible the awareness that footwear design has. It wasn't even that long ago for me, but it really was like I had to find like an LA Times article that to kind of like realize that there was like a world out there where someone was designing skate shoes. He kind of helped connect me with some designers that were working in consultancies in the Columbus area.
This fly is the
that little guy is like hanging around.
If I can catch you, I will catch you, and you will be dead. Got him. Done.
Oh, you got him? Oh man, R.I.P. little guy.
Sorry, dude.
Hope it's better on the other side.
That was not wrong time, wrong place.
Wrong time. Sorry, wrong.
That's interesting. It's the same. Like it is. I think footwear education has come leaps and bounds. Since,
I mean, this podcast is certainly a part of that movement. For sure.
There's even like Savannah College of Art and Design. Like they have their own thing. I've actually I need to respond to a guy. like a month or so ago now, someone said, "Hey, do you want to hear what we got going on down here?" And I'm like, yes,
probably should. Like, that sounds great.
And of course Pencil was like, even when I was in school, I don't think I had never heard of World Sneaker Championship stuff. Like,
me neither.
It was like not, and then I'd heard that like 2 had already happened, and I was like, what?
Really? Like, oh wow.
Like, man, I would have entered that 100 times.
Right. I would have done all-nighters working on my application.
Absolutely.
Oh man, so funny.
That's cool. So Wait, so I'm trying to go back in. So you expressed that.
Yeah, and he just connected me with some of his network of designers that work in consultancies that were doing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the brands that are in the Columbus area, but they were more like boots, like kind of outdoor boots. And
that's kind of the Midwest thing.
It is the Midwest thing, and I'm blanking on the name of the one brand that was really big in Ohio, but I can't remember what it is now.
I was like, I know there's like Wolverine and Timberland and all those, like, it's kind of like parceled through the Midwest.
Yeah,
Texas has like Tecovas, I think.
Yeah,
and like
Tecovas. Yep, that's another one.
Like some of the other ones, man. Yeah, and then like, okay, so you're like, you're being referred.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of like he's like, I don't know how to handle this guy. I'll just punt him around to some of my other.
Man.
So I start, like kind of like do cold LinkedIn messages or whatever, and like start reaching out to the names that he had sent. And it was funny because I had never known what a last was. That's how kind of green my experience with footwear. Even though I was really interested and had brought it up to my professor at the time. I think it was might have been my second year. And anyway, these guys were extremely useful. They, and helpful. They would answer a couple of my, I'd send them like emails of designs and what I was kind of thinking about for like capstone projects and senior theses and all that stuff. And one of the guys sent me a last to start kind of roughing out, shoes built around it. So I had like ordered some. I think I reached out to a Pi-Ho rep that I met at like I think it was IDSO Industrial Design Conference.
Or the IDSA? Or
IDSA, thank you. Wow, I missed that one.
I never did that.
I kind of went up there and absolutely got I think I reviewed a portfolio one time, or had my portfolio reviewed rather, and I just left and like cried on the way home. It was demoralizing.
Oh man.
It's just like these guys are reviewing thousands of portfolios a day. I mean, or over the span of the event, and they're like, listen, you need to change this. This is not great. This is I've seen better. Execution of this stuff, and you're just like, thank you.
Well, and you're coming from like, I mean, Ohio State. You're not coming from like major programs, right? Like I was gonna do. I had two plans. I was either doing BYU or I was staying close to home and doing JMU.
Okay.
And I just felt like when I went to JMU, I thought it was going to be fine. Yeah. But I didn't, I don't know. When I got to BYU, I was like, oh, like, there are like levels to this. I was going to say,
BYU's program I know is nuts.
Like there's levels. And I don't know. Like, you don't know anything.
Yeah, right. It is such a, I don't know. Yeah, it's like the world opens up and you realize you were not prepared for what it had to offer, or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I felt. Yeah. At the IDSA conference. Yeah. Because we're also getting, I think we're, at least the one that I went to, it was up in Michigan, and the Michigan school, I'm forgetting its name as well.
There's like CCS.
CCS obviously is like pulling some massive heavy hitters. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. and I was, I'm showing my portfolio probably like, 5, CCS students deep. And, I'm like, okay, well, I got the public flogging I needed to kind of wake me up. So, but it was, I'm saying this all kind of in jest, but it, it obviously worked out and to some degree. So
Yeah. Interesting. Well then how do you get into footwear? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah. So the jump from school to like real life was like, it's like, how does that happen? And, I feel like to anyone listening, it's like that's probably one of the moments in time. Well, maybe the Instagram and social media makes that transition a little bit easier, but,
right.
But certainly at the time it's like you're kind of at the mercy of an HR person, and, if there's a position or an internship opened, you kind of have to just like, I hope this works.
Yeah.
And the Reebok, that was my first footwear specific internship. They had like an apprenticeship program. I don't think they still do. But it was a year long, held in their office in Canton, Massachusetts. They've since relocated their headquarters to downtown Boston. And right after I graduated, or maybe it was a month before my graduation ceremony, I, was fortunate enough to be able to get one of those footwear specific internships.
Right.
And I was like, awesome, this is great. So yeah, as soon as I graduated, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks after, I drove everything in the back of my Scion XB. I always joke that, I mean, if anyone has a Scion XB, like keep that car.
Yeah.
It's my favorite car of all time.
It's my XA out there.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had to get rid of it at before moving out to the West Coast and everything. But
Oh man.
I miss it every day.
Yeah.
At the time when I moved out to Boston, Massachusetts, I was joking, but it was a truth. All of my earthly possessions I could fit in the back of that XB.
Yeah.
Extremely practical car.
Yeah. Is that the box?
That's the boxy one. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. The 2009.
Nice.
Yeah, it's deceptive because it's way bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside.
Yep.
But you could fold those seats down like perfectly flat. Had like amazing, cargo, storage space.
Yeah.
This podcast has turned into an ad for Scion.
Hey. They don't exist anymore.
I know, R.I.P.
But no, I mean, I feel the same way about that one. It's like the mini version of that. Like you fold it down and like you're good to go.
Yeah, you got all the space in the world. It's like, what can't you fit in there?
Yeah, and I would do the same thing. I would pack up everything and
drive out to it.
Where I was going
to be. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. No, like car aside.
So yeah. So living in moved out to Massachusetts. Did the apprenticeship for 1 year. I was on the women's training team, which was really good. It was my first kind of like foray into learning more specifically about movement, and training and performance product. Because again, like having a skateboarding background, I didn't do any other. I wasn't a runner. I wasn't. I didn't play any I didn't play soccer or anything because I was like, I'm just I'm skateboarding and just too cool for that.
What I'm like trying to fill the gap. So like, how did you get that? Like,
I think it was a random LinkedIn post. I think at LinkedIn at the time had like you could kind of cater a job search posting kind of thing, and they would just like email you every morning like, here's all the things that are kind of like distant association with what you just like submitted. So you're getting everything from like, I don't know, like EXO, UI designer and, Tallahassee, Florida for whatever, and you're like, okay, keep scrolling, keep moving past that. But there was an internship that, the Reebok internship was posted on there. And I think that's kind of how I knew, or I knew it existed, for that matter. But
you would like fix your portfolio and.
It was I was kind of ramping up. I was in portfolio season, my last year of school. Everyone's, it's part of like the graduation review is that your portfolio is put as, I guess, like includes as your partial grade or something for the senior year.
Yeah. I remember, that is a memory that I have packaged and put away. But now that you mention it, I did have to get that ready for, man.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know it was weighted like heavy, at least for our program. It was like 40% of your grade. So if you had a partially completed portfolio, you could like potentially flunk your senior year or something. You're like, what? Like, it's not going to happen. That's not me. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, like, all kind of coincided, and Reebok probably also intentionally timed that like that internship, knowing that people are probably ramping up and getting ready to kind of like apply for these kinds of things and these kinds of positions. So, looking, it's funny. Like, I think I was pulling up a hard drive and I was looking back through that portfolio, and I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have gotten that internship.
I'm like, that's what I'm wondering, because I think a lot of people, and I don't know. We try not to focus on people from time to time, but I feel like some people who listen are just like, wait, how did you do it? And you're like.
No, that probably needs to be unpacked. I mean, it's
one of those things.
I kind of joke, but truthfully, I really do think it was true. Like, I mean, if my portfolio can make it past the HR test, and so the HR moves it onto the hiring manager. I remember the Skype call I had with the hiring manager at Reebok, and I remember just being over the top, like, charming.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I said, but it was funny. I met my wife in school, and I think I held my Skype interview or something like in the same kind of big space, and she's in the room as well. So I'm like, all right, guys, everyone, be quiet. I'm on I'm going to my interview right now. Yeah. I remember her like rolling her eyes like during this because it was that like over the top of like just being extra.
Sure.
I don't know, charming, but to the point of like sickening. And I don't know if there's anything to be said about that, but it is, I guess, kind of worth mentioning. Like, people are people, and they, if anything you can do to make, if I was a hiring manager and I'm making a bunch of Skype calls that day, like, who am I going to remember? There's a lot of portfolios I've been looking through. Like, is there someone, is someone who's going to make me laugh and like feel good? Like that might kind of float, higher to the surface.
Wow, that's interesting. We haven't unpacked that on like in terms of like when you do get an interview, what do you say, or like. Yeah, that's so interesting.
There's probably a really delicate line, because like you can't kiss too much butt. You know what I mean? When I interviewed with my few interviews with New Balance one time, when they were like, "You're going to talk to Jared Goldman," I was like, "That's cool." Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And so like, yeah, like really, like I was like, man, I can't even believe I'm talking to you right now. Like 10 years, 7 years ago, Jake would have been freaking out.
Yeah,
like,
right.
And like, you try to say stuff like that. It's like, look, like, I know I'm interviewing for a senior position, but this is kind of cool.
Yeah, can I fan out a little right now?
Like, yeah. And
Jared's
I don't
legend.
know if
he
it
really is so cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it got me anywhere, but I almost couldn't help it. Like, it was just like, I gotta say this. Like,
yeah, right.
This is pretty sick.
Yeah, I think everyone likes to have their flowers handed to them, and like and when it's deserved and it's sincere, it's everyone loves it,
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm a big fan. Like, footwear is it's made up of people, so you just really got to be nice, like,
yeah. More often, and I'm starting to realize it as I network and talk to more people, but it's like, we're regular people.
Yeah.
And more so than like, I would say like, some people look up to, I hate to keep using Tinker Hatfield as a example.
He's extremely well known. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to like use that as an example because he's kind of an outlier, but even Mike was like, I'm just doing a job, man. Like, I was hired to do something and I did it and it looked cool. And it's like, but that's basically the mindset behind every single one of us.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not a famous person. I'm not making a ton of money. Like, I'm just like, I wanted to do this and I'm doing it. And yeah, it gets worn by people. That's kind of cool, but it's not like I met Jeremy Renner. Like,
right. It's so funny you're saying this, because I do think it hits on something that I also was kind of like just stewing on, but it's like, because like especially in the age of social media, you can see someone else's like prolific profile or something, like design profile, and you're like, this person is cut above and they have an inside knowledge to something that's like deeper and like more interesting than anything I could ever imagine. And then you reach out to the person or something, and you do learn that there's just a level of like curiosity and like, I don't know, intuition that's bred from experience, but they're really normal people, I think it's really kind of nice to have ourselves or just be reminded all the time that like, all the shoulders of the giants that we're standing on, we're also standing on giants, and they don't consider themselves to be those giants at all. So
right. I think you just want to advance. You just want to keep the ball moving.
Yeah, you just want to kind of keep on having fun and digging deep,
Yeah, right. Man, I don't know. Like, so you get Reebok. That's cool. Yep. I can totally understand why, if you're buttering a guy up, and but you get the hiring manager. I don't know if you have too many more interviews plus that.
I can't
but it's
recall. Like I said,
especially with an internship.
The Skype one really stood out to me because it was like, I was like, I'm just gonna just be really nice to this person, because like, just gonna be really nice. But yeah, I can't even remember. It wasn't even that long ago, but man, that kind of the whole era just like goes by so quickly.
Right. Yeah. It's just, and then, well, anyway, we can fast forward it a little bit. Like, You get an internship, assuming it's successful.
Yep.
Is that
led to a full-time position there. And I was there for a total of 3 years. So 2 full-time, 1 as part of the internship.
Wow.
And I just continued to stay on the training side of things.
Right.
And training was great. That was, Reebok back in the early, or I guess 2010s, was really big into CrossFit. That was their like sport of choice. That was the market they were like choosing to kind of like zero in on. And I was really like getting into the aspect and the mindset of those athletes specifically, and like learning about the needs of their footwear was, I was really getting into that like space. There's certain considerations you need to have for lifting weight that's, twice the weight of the athlete over their heads. You're going to have a level of balance and, kind of stability from that.
Right.
But I remember talking to one of the designers who was on the running team at Reebok. And he said something that never left me. I will name drop this guy, Brian Ranella. You should get him on the pod.
Ask.
He's a good guy. Nell's 18, I think his Instagram handle, but I know he would love to he'd love to have a chat. Yeah. But he mentioned to me one time, he was like, if you can design the best running shoe, he's like, you could probably design anything.
Oh, shit.
And it's funny, like at the time I was like, whoa, like that's I never thought about that. Mm-hmm. Looking back now, I'm like, yeah, there's probably actually more really niche footwear that if you can do that really well, that probably leads to more interesting skills. But what he was mentioning with that comment was that running is such a repetitive motion. It's full of minor nuances that can really add up to great consequences over time. So every single step, if you have the slightest bit of like heel slip or something, like the more that expounds over the course of a 10K, the more like, I guess, prone to friction and blisters or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, when he mentioned that, I was like, okay, yeah, I like thinking that there's really like a thin margin for like doing this really well. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so that kind of clued me into thinking about running, and how can I get more education and insight into this? And so New Balance at the time, had opened a position for like an associate, on the run team. And, I was like, okay, I think my time at Reebok's kind of seeing it's going to be sunset. I'm on to the new thing and try to learn more about running. Yeah.
Was it just the running curiosity that led to that sunset time? Or like, did you feel anything else that was like, I kind of want to move on? And before you answer that, I'm going to make sure but yeah, so.
Yeah. Anything else that led to that? Or led to kind of like thinking time to move on?
Yeah. Like what, what's, 'cause I mean, I know my experience, but mine was after 8 years. Yeah. So it's like kind of different. Like, how do you make that decision on such a short like time? Where did that? Yeah,
no, that's actually a very good point.
There might not be anything. I'm not saying.
No. But I know what you're getting at, because it is interesting to think like, especially in, for anyone, a career is a long amount of time. So it's like, what are those? Like you can, and it's possible to stay in the one position and the one corporate job, or if that's what the future holds. Like it's possible to do that for like 30 years. But I actually do think it's interesting, and I would like to almost like know more of those moments where you do need to kind of like shake things up just to keep it fresh for yourself and to keep yourself engaged. If I think back to the Reebok time, what was that moment?
Sometimes it's just an exciting.
I think it was a little bit like exciting. It was a change. And maybe there's nothing deeper than this, but I think at the time, like, you're in school for 4 years in high school, you're 4 years from middle school or whatever, 4 years for college. I think I was like nearing that transitional time period for myself. And like, it felt like the season was approaching where something new needed to happen. Yeah. There may be something there. There was no like disgruntlement or anything with Reebok or anything like that. I have some of my greatest mentors. I mean, I mentioned Brian Ranella. We still keep in touch.
That's awesome.
Johnny Jensen. I think he might cross paths with him. He was he's a big mentor of mine.
He's someone I'm trying to get on, but he's someone I think I'm gonna fly to.
Oh, sick!
Because he actually was in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And I interned under him.
No way.
And he was like, the closest thing I can think to like working with like MJ, you know, like it was like your first like real footwear designer that you really like watch do their thing, and he was good at it then. I can't imagine where he is at now, but
he's at New Balance now.
Well, no, I know where he's at, but I'm saying his progression of skills,
totally.
like I can't even imagine. I don't know, but
he's a really good design mind. I have nothing but massive adoration and like awe because I mean, when I was at Reebok, I think I was just going in for my internship to full time, and he was brought on full time. And then I was just like, thank heavens you're here. I like it had some stuff that I was learning from the internship, but he comes in and like really like calcifies a lot of it. And like, you know, I was like, oh geez, like this is what it takes, you know?
He was the first person,
Great
man,
guy.
Now we're off on like blowing steam at people, but people who aren't even
Johnny.
here. But
Johnny, get on the pod.
Yeah, he'll be on. I will, man. I'm serious. I will make the trip.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It might be this fall because I have family out east. So
okay, yeah, right
so
on.
I might just
just like add this one in. Yeah,
loop on up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, he's the first one to ever like call out my Illustrator lines when I was an intern.
Okay.
And like your lines aren't legit. Like they don't look great. Like here's what my line art looks like. Here's what yours looks like. And like the first one to really like make me think like, wait, my radiuses don't look that good.
Yeah, wait, he's right.
Wait, I'm like, oh no, like, and I don't remember what my stuff looked like then. I haven't. I'm sure I have Illustrator files I could open up and be like, oh darn, but like, yeah, he was the first one, and like, you know how like people say stuff that like rings in your ears for a long
there's like a sound bite that echoes.
Like, I think about stuff like that. I think about him saying that even now it's like in my lines.
That's actually awesome.
Like approved.
Oh man, I wish I had that with some of his stuff. But
even though like I feel like now I don't know. Like,
you got that line art crispy.
Yeah, like right. Like I think I wonder if there's like I know there's plateaus and stuff, and I'm like I wonder where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. So. Anyway, like
maybe
where would I measure up
to him, and then he can do a on-air critique of it?
Yeah, I was thinking on the way over if it would be like because I'm always thinking of like what's the next thing for this? Because okay, we've done this 3 times. Mm-hmm. What's the next like thing? And I'm almost wondering if we do almost like print out like a tech pack.
It'd be like,
and like someone's just like,
edit this,
here's what I did, and this is why, and then have someone from a different brand like look at the tech pack.
Oh my gosh, I love this idea. I think that's awesome.
So,
yeah,
we are. But at there's only so much we can do. But
right. But that's let's.
But like a past tech pack that like someone like of a shoe that's now live that like I would love to see how someone even like adds call outs and stuff, like the difference. This Johnny had like
his tech packs were so good. I referenced
solid.
Oh man.
I still have them.
Yeah.
I mean just even within like Brooks, like I remember looking at other designers' tech packs and being like, oh man,
that's a really clever way to communicate.
Like even the print on this shoe, I'm like, man, one guy like would like label his prints like in depth, like in layers and doing all this stuff. And I was like, man, I never thought about doing that. I'm doing that now. Or like would number like parts on blueprints with like big numbers and like.
I saw someone do that, and that literally changed my life. I always do that, and I always have the corresponding number like on the side of a blueprint, and I'll be like, 1 is here, because I would like before. It's funny we're going on this topic.
Yeah.
Before we would like I like do all these red lines or something, and I had like little arrows pointing out to the parts of that was like adjust this radius, add 3 mil here, see notes about cut line surfacing and stuff like that, and the whole thing was just getting such a crowded mess.
Yeah,
and I remember someone was telling me, though, like, you know what, like a lot of these people that are reading this are not going to be native English speakers. You're asking a lot of the person on the receiving end of this to be able to kind of translate and get the idea that you're trying to communicate across by by words, and then the reference that was shown to me to kind of like just do the communication aspect better was numbers. Simple, like one sentence call out, and then photoshopping of like, here's a 3D print or something, and then here's the before, here's the after, whatever.
Oh man,
it changed my life.
Yeah,
it's the only way I do it now.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, so we went way off.
Johnny Jensen has an effect on people.
Yeah. Johnny shows up at Reebok. That's cool.
Yeah, we're on the same training team.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you worked under him for.
For 2 years. Yeah, 2 years I was
That's
there.
cool.
Yeah.
I only had like 2 months, 3 months.
Oh, man. Yeah, well. Yeah. In the process. I mean, like I said, I got a lot from you. I think one of the questions you had sent over was, who are the mentors that I, look up to? And it's Johnny Jensen.
Yeah.
Full stop, He's a great guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any others from that Reebok time, or is it just like those two you're
Brian
saying?
Ranella, like I said, I keep in touch with him. There's another designer who's no longer there, but I also kind of keep in touch with. I think he kind of fell out of working in footwear specifically.
Right.
Yeah, and like the funny thing about mentors is that they I feel like they change and they kind of like move through different phases themselves,
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's I think it's great that there's always someone out there to teach you something, no matter what level you're at or what stage of your career.
Yeah, right. It is kind of fun to. I didn't really have mentors. Like I would put Johnny in there, but I don't even think he thinks he's a mentor, right. Which is fine. But I did come to him with like several questions about like, what do I do? Like how do I, what's my next step or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But it is fun to like grab people, 'cause we're all growing, right? Like, and so even if I were to approach him now, like I would assume that the level of feedback would be different. Like the amount of advice would be different as opposed to like where I was then. So it's like, he's grown. Like it's probably been like 2 or 3 years since I talked to him about any of that stuff. And so I'm like, it is kind of funny. Like we all kind of like moved together.
No, that is really true. Yeah. That's interesting correlation.
Yeah. So anyway, that's aside. But yeah, it's like, it's fun to have mentors is essentially what I'm saying, because not only are you growing, and it's hard to, track those mentors down. And I don't know if I have very many, there might be like 1 or 2, it's like, but man, your footwear experience sounds super cool. Even in the even in the intro stages, like is far and away, like I feel like a little, I don't want to say better than mine, but like in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, like, you're working with people who like, I would think you're like super legit. Like, and I would be like, oh man, like, yeah, you want to like, if you want to learn footwear, you got to get under that guy. You got to talk to that guy. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. That alone, like, cause when I came into footwear, like, I got into Brooks. I didn't know anybody. Probably because they didn't want to be known, or they're
low profile
Brooks. Yeah, it's like whatever. Yeah. And I quickly found like, okay, I want to learn from that guy and that guy, but it wasn't like, it's not the Johnny Jensen. It's not Jared Goldman. It's not like, it's not like these people. And so I was always wondering if I was getting like a true shake, like,
it's, I think that's a fair call. Yeah.
But anyway, so take me from, all right, so you're going, you saw the New Balance, you saw running, and then, man, we might have to
hurry this along. We
might have to cruise along a little bit. But it's fine to get like off in these places, because I think they're going to love it. So, so yeah, like the New Balance switch.
The New Balance switch. Like I said, I was kind of ready for the next step. I wanted to get more into running. I felt like that was a good place to be able to really, I guess, like cut my teeth against like what it takes to really be a footwear designer, and really, to try to do the best job that I could to really feel confident that what I was doing was like, my experience was like in line with, being being great or something. I quickly learned that what Brian mentioned about like if you make the perfect running shoe, I don't think that's possible. I think like there's always going to be something that's going to be. It's funny. Like I feel like all designers will look back on a product and be like, could have been better, you know? And I actually kind of hope that never changes because I think that's like part of the secret sauce that keeps us exciting.
That's interesting.
But so I wanted to get into running. Wanted to, you know, my wife was also a big runner, so you know her interest kind of aligned with this new career trajectory. So she was also equally as excited with, you know, picking up running and having a discount on some like running shoes that she was also like, you know, wearing. She came from the Brooks. What shoe did she run in? It's
probably a Ghost or a.
It wasn't the Ghost. It was the one with like the pods in the middle.
The Dyad or something.
Dyad.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, she was a big Dyad.
Wow. Okay.
If this starts to kind of round out her profile to the listeners.
Okay. That's a shoe.
That's. I think that might be my favorite kind of like comment about like that's a shoe.
that's a shoe that was made.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, it's fine if it gets you out. You know,
if it gets you out,
and you're running, and it feels
you're running a shoe.
It feels good, and you're, you know.
She was a big believer of that story of like the two little like metatarsal pods that were like right in the midfoot area of the shoe.
I don't owe an apology, but perhaps one of my teams does, because we basically developed a shoe that shut that one down.
Oh, really? Man. R.I.P. Diode.
Yeah. That was...
Try to find them on eBay.
Yeah. It might come back one day. I don't know, but it definitely...
The pendulum swings, doesn't it?
We definitely... I was on the team that basically shut it down. And everyone knows, like, the Ghost Max was like...
That shoe
replacement.
Can we start talking about the shoes that you worked on? Because I think we need to start, like, you know, speaking of the flowers being like handed over, the Ghost Max, that was on the watch list. That was on our watch list at New Balance. We were like, uh-oh. We got ourselves a problem. I think all right, so we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like that shoe was the one that kind of like became like a course correction for like the 1080 franchise to some degree.
Yeah.
Because I think historically the 1080 was like a very approachable, and I still think it is to some degree, but it definitely like dialed up the running and kind of like super trainer aspect of in its nature. But it was in direct response to being like, I think there was a leak on like Protos of the Gram. There was some sort of like leak that happened, and we're like, okay, guys, what are we going to do about this? Yeah. So we need to talk.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah. Before we get to that,
anyway, sorry, way ahead of ourselves. Yeah.
We'll make a note on that thing. That's cool. The man, I don't know. I mean, this might be like, correct me if I'm wrong, internet, but this might be the first time a Brooks designer and a ex-Brooks designer, ex-New Balance designer ever sat down at the same table and just like
talk shop.
Hey,
what was going on?
How did your thing go? And how did it go? Oh man, this is like new ground. This is awesome.
This is great.
Yeah. So, wait. So you're on the running team. Your first project, then like second project. I guess like. Man,
kind of like
what's the trajectory of that?
I think the first shoes I was working on were kind of like the commercial driver's product, which is, you know, you're starting out. Everyone starts, you know, needing to kind of know the ropes, which was amazing. Again, like it was my first introduction to a new corporate way of like establishing tech packs, doing deliverables, stage gates, all that stuff. You know, you start to learn that there's similarities amongst all industries, but there is a handwriting in every corporate setting.
Yeah.
I think it's useful to help kind of understand and like to the listener too. It's like there's multiple ways to kind of get to a deliverable, you know, or achievable result, and each one has their own merits. And if you can like learn as many as you can kind of start to form your own process.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, doing the commercial driver's product, I think I worked on a trail shoe. I worked on a cross country spike that was like $70. again, just entry level stuff just to kind of start learning the ropes.
Right.
And then, yeah, like,
which is common practice. Like,
exactly. Common practice.
Which is like, I think people get like, I think some people might think when they get into footwear, they go straight to like the bangers, and it's like, nah.
Right. It takes a little bit. You kind of have to pay your respects in some ways.
And you don't want to, I think.
Yeah. See, that's a funny thing. I think the more experienced you are, the less you want to do those like banger projects. Because you're like, I could just chill. I could do something that like no one's looking at and really have myself a nice summer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay, so you start into that. I'm thinking clearly having some success, learning the ins and outs right.
And the one thing I'm actually kind of curious if Brooks does something similar, but I guess like the one thing that New Balance did that was really unique and really awesome for me was every beginning of a season there would be like a creative vision sketch, kind of like huddle, where we knew where the projects were going to be for the next coming season from the product marketing team. And all the designers would just start throwing down sketches, like, okay, we know we got ourselves a new 1080. We know we have ourselves a new 880, all these like running shoe models that are, different targets, different briefs, different, consumers. But everyone's kind of like feels the ability to contribute and like really have their ideas kind of shown. Anyway, so all that was really cool to be able to start throwing down ideas on all sorts of things. And then my boss, Drew Nyson, he's a really amazing guy. Another one of the mentors to add to my list.
Yeah.
He was just a really great manager to be able to like give people a chance. And he was really great at bringing up younger talent into the brand by giving them those opportunities, being like, hey, you know what? Like, I really like what you're doing on that. Like, welcome to the hero, like you're going to be on that shoe for the next season. And just really empower designers by giving them just the ability to kind of like show their worth,
Right. So so you're saying at New Balance, like at the start of a season or
kind of
maybe preseason, everyone would just jump in and be like throwing down like based on, I'm trying to think, you're taking in new information from brief or just any kind of inspiration that's been coming through. Yep. And then everyone's just like looking at the past product.
Knowing where it's going. Or like, we imagine this is going to be anniversary. So what's our kind of front end, like direction and,
So everyone's in on that?
Like, everyone's in, from interns all the way up to like, the more like the most senior designers. And like to some degree there's an understanding that like, hey, like an 880 is too important to kind of give to someone who's had like 1 year of experience. So this is going to go to, Chase, who I mentioned earlier,
But like anyone like can just throw sketches.
Anyone can throw sketches. And like, when talking about their sketches, it was received with equal level of like, I guess just like input, like, hey, I thought this would be a really cool thing. And everyone's like, hey, and we're like, oh yeah, you know what? That's cool. We could also do that over here, and that like,
interesting.
I think I'm also like the more, I guess like the older I get, the more I'm kind of thinking about like the long term and like what, I think it's probably safe to say for a majority of designers, they want to kind of like take the helm and like lead a team, I feel that way. I imagine you feel the same way. I think having this podcast is a testament to like you wanting to educate and like bring people up. And if there's a real, I don't know, there's a real hunger for that in me to some degree. And so like I'm always trying to like imagine like what's the best way to kind of contribute to a creative environment that like empowers inspiration, empowers creativity versus like kind of stifling it or like bullying it or whatever.
Oh sure.
Because creativity is like a flower. Like if you start getting too choking with it, if you start to step on it, it's like it won't really grow back the same way,
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of give it space and like the proper like environment to be able to really flourish.
This is pretty interesting. I would say a very healthy way to approach a team dynamic, especially a creative one. We experienced that in some degree. Like there was, I don't know if there was anything one-to-one similar to that though, like where we're all, I like the way I'm seeing it is like you're all at a table like this,
Yeah,
and
actually,
like you're passing like things around, and stuff that's not like compelling is maybe put aside, but then you're you're grabbing things and saying like, well, this is like, oh, that's really creative. Let's and then. But I'm wondering then, do you use those things as like starting points? Are they held? Do they get dismissed in the season? Like you get down the road and you're like, well, actually that's not very cool anymore.
Yeah. There was always a level of like self-edit, as like time goes on. But I think to that point though, it was like when you first started out, there's like so much enthusiasm and just like raw nervous energy to start sharing ideas that the design leadership at the time was like, okay, we respect that you guys like put some thought and there's a lot of creative energy here. We're going to give you the space to be able to kind of like come to your own decisions and like start doing the own self-edit stuff. Because I've definitely been in environments where you would have a creative design director that comes in and is like, rip, and takes all this stuff off the board. Yeah, right. And then puts their own thing up there or something, and you're like, okay, like you're the boss. I get it. Got to toe the line. But
that happens too. But I agree, and I agree. Like when you have enough of those moments where like someone has like stepped on your stuff enough, or like you start to like get in your own head. You start to self-edit. And I had a manager once tell me like, look, like the last thing we want you to do is to like hold back. I don't remember how he said it, but like essentially like self-edit and like not give us everything. Like,
oh, interesting.
To approach your work more timidly because of something that's happened, or like feedback that you received from leadership that is like stifling you at this point. It's like it's true. Like and then how do you approach the next season if you're getting that kind of feedback?
If you're just getting put down,
like how do you like it's like one of those things. Like how do you continue? That's not good for anybody.
Right. And like I that's really good to hear that your manager made that comment, because I think it's like it's also important to someone who's been receiving, because like I'm like. I probably should be said too. Like I feel like sometimes a feedback that does feel stifling isn't coming from a stifling place. It's not coming from a place of like I'm trying to like box people out, or like kind of like puff my chest out and show who's the one who's like in charge here or whatever. Like sometimes I do think that comments are kind of intended for a positive outcome, but just people have tricky communication sometimes, and like things can be misunderstood. But it's nice to be able to be reassured that like, hey, listen, like stuff's happened. Don't let that kind of like weigh in, and like just keep on, bringing some creative ideas forward, because that's what's really needed. Okay.
You want to say anything else? I mean, you got in the running.
Got in the running.
We're basically like at the point where I would say let's start sketching. But I mean, is there anything else you want to say about the career? And we'll jump over here. I mean, New Balance time, you've cut your teeth, gotten in. I mean, you've done a little bit of that at Reebok. Mm-hmm. Is there anything on the tail end? And then, I guess kind of talk about where you are now, and then we can just put a bow on it, even though we're not going to get to everything. I think people would like to hear.
Like just maybe go into the last part being like, as with all of us in design, we're always looking to kind of continue to do education, continue to do the deep research, and like sitting at this table, and like to all listeners out there, like New Balance is great. Like love New Balance. Everyone there I've worked with was amazing, and I really did learn a lot from that environment and that group of people. But like, as kind of what we were talking about earlier about like, when does it start to feel like things are needing to change in order to continue to grow and develop? And there was a moment in time where I was like, hey, listen, like I'm getting used to these like digital, skills, or right. Like, New Balance has a real like kind of like not priority, but they want to be able to provide the resources for their designers to learn the tools and like learn a variety of different methods and ways to kind of like design and create and ideate, whether that be 3D modeling, gravity sketch, AI, all the tools that are under the sun that designers are seeing every day on like Instagram.
Right.
Like they're like, hey, we want to give you guys the space and the ability to get in there and see if there's anything unique and interesting for yourselves. And that, which is that was my whole thing when I was there. I was really getting into variety of different 3D programs and such. But there was a moment where I was like, hey, how is this making the arch of this shoe fit better? Why is the fit of this shoe not like getting the feeling, the sensation that I want?
Right.
And fast forward, I'm at Arc'teryx now, and Arc'teryx is a apparel company first and foremost. They were bred from designing really great like climbing product to Gore-Tex jackets, which I think everyone's more familiar with them in their current like product offering.
Right.
And all of that's pattern making. All of that is essentially just building something that's flat into something 3D. And it felt like that was a moment for me to kind of like learn something. There was something that I could dig deeper on and even get to that more deeper resonant truth of like, how can I make the best perfect running shoe?
Right.
Like I said, don't think it's possible, but I'm going to try this avenue and see what I learn.
Interesting. Man, that's so cool. What strikes me about like one, I think your level of experience is super awesome. I think New Balance is like, it really does feel like they're in their own lane. Much like when I talked to Valerie with Hoka, I'm like, Hoka's like on the over here.
Yeah, right.
I feel like New Balance is doing their own thing, but there's a level of like quality that comes from New Balance as well. But I feel like Arc'teryx is like the build, the materials, everything's always on point. Into a way that like is intimidating to me. like I don't even know who works there. Like I'm like
bunch of robot.
I'm like, are you guys just like? It makes me think of like these very pinnacle like, and I've never been that what's the, like high end. Like I've flirted with owning some Arc'teryx stuff in the past, and I truly like have looked at Arc'teryx as like blue sky, like wow, like the valence stuff, or like where it's like, well, I think that'd be really cool, but that jacket's like $800,
right? Yeah, like
plus, and it's like man,
steep barrier to entry.
Yeah, I'm like, this is awesome. And even with like industry discounts, you'd be like, do I do this?
Yeah, the pro deal is doesn't move the needle too much.
Yeah, like, I'm really committing if I'm going to do this.
Right.
But I think that's really awesome that you are moving into like, I mean, that level. Like that to me is like, I don't know if I'm ever going to touch that world, but what, like, I guess what's it like being there?
It's everything you're saying is 100% my waking reality of like, oh man, like there's a lot of great like experience and dedicated people that are like bringing a level of energy and like introspective thought and experience that I'm like, I mean, I feel like an intern again.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I thought I knew, I'm like, oh, I guess I could have like challenged that more when I was learning in. And again, I'm totally like giving credit to every brand that I've worked with and everyone I've ever worked with, but like the level of I guess just like in-depth thinking, there is something interesting there that is really cool to just be around.
Yeah.
Arc'teryx, their main apparel headquarters is based in Vancouver, Canada, and that's where their design center is held. And all the people that are up there, they're extremely core to the mountain athletes that they build for.
Yeah.
They're always out, making a sample in the the atelier, sample lab one morning, and then they're out in the afternoon, like up in the coastal mountain range, just like putting it to the test, seeing if the zipper fails, seeing if the seam breaks, seeing if the gussets work. And them working in footwear is new. It's like a new kind of like, I guess like category that they're really trying to fortify and build up. And the translation of that level of apparel, kind of like know-how and experience to footwear, is like where we're coming in. We're kind of like trying to figure out how to create those inroads and like the cross experience between like how they're approaching apparel to how we can approach like footwear. It's different. It's complicated, and we're working at it, but the bar has been set, and now which is kind of great because now we know we have a target to hit. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the product looks great, as you would expect. Like as I'm like, yeah. I went to the Arc'teryx store downtown, and I was just like, this is cool.
Yeah, all right.
This is cool. Yeah. I think everyone in the world is like the mule. I think you're wearing them, but the Crags. Yeah, I'm like everyone's just like, that's sick.
It's a cool shoe.
That's an Arc'teryx take on that.
Yeah,
right. It's very Arc'teryx, and it's very cool. Yeah, very like, I mean, well finished, simple, but there's like a build that you're like, that looks like it could hold up to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very interesting.
For me, it really comes down to how is the build, and it's I've never taken apart so many samples with like an X-Acto knife and like bandsaw.
Yeah, bandsaw.
Yeah. Just to kind of be like, okay, like I don't like how they're using the reinforcer. I don't like how that's being laminated together. I think we can cut stuff off here.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Nice. I feel satisfied. I mean, I don't at the same time because there's so many things. I keep keeping that Ghost Max thing in my mind, but maybe we'll tackle that when we sketch. This is one thing we didn't do with Friton. Someone bumped one of our cameras and it turned off.
Oh boy!
Like literally, like one of his staffers like walked by, bumped it,
and they're like dislodged it just enough.
Yeah, like just did something on one of the other, not this one, but like one of the other cameras we had set up because we brought like
a lot of things.
Cameras. We're like, my Friton, we're bringing cameras.
Yeah, we don't want to miss this.
And someone walked by and it was just done. We lost one of the angles like completely.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, this is not cool. But
wow.
Now I'm overprotective and I want to get this right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll do another clap. I will put what we just talked about in, but
yep.
I'm going to clap it. So then, okay, so let's do... All right.
Some shoe stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about these for about, I don't know, 8 minutes, I think. Well,
cool.
10 minutes, and then we can get on with it. But, all right. The shoe that both broke my heart and... So what I remember about this was seeing that flashy, awesome like render or shoes, whatever you want to call it.
Color, yeah.
With the orange.
Yep, the yellow stripe, yeah.
Orange, I mean, yellow. I showed my wife the drawing before I came over. I was like, "This is who I'm talking to."
Oh wow, that's funny.
Because I mean, I just remember seeing it and be like, "Man, that is just awesome." I mean, like. To the T, we went and like used a similar mesh, foam and everything on the next Hyperion because we were like, well,
it's a formula that works.
The game, what is it? The gloves are off. They've been thrown in the ring. We have to we have to respond.
Right.
We have to respond. That was like, that was literally like, we just looked at this thing and like, we would have a guy running it and running ours and running this and running ours and running this. So, and then to show, because I like to
get some close-up angles.
We might do this. We'll do this afterwards, but I guess you can talk about it. Talk about like, if you learned anything, any of the process that's interesting, but
yeah.
You can
I mean, I can probably talk to this and like it'll help explain a couple of things. So the Rebel in like internally at New Balance, the shoe is always kind of the one that's like, it kind of bucks the conventions of like a traditional running like layup, right? So like some of the things that we were looking and exploring, my boss Drew Nyson had done the Rebel V1. This is the V2 iteration.
I did meet Drew.
You did
Drew's
meet
the
Drew?
other one.
Yeah. He's man, I love that guy.
Awesome.
Really good dude. But some of the things he was looking to do were kind of like learning and like really assessing like where foot strike happens when you're at certain speeds. So like if you're running like the 6 to 7 minute mile, like is your foot is even like a conventional heel to toe like gait cycle, is that being affected? Are you like rolling in through different ways or whatever? So he had kind of designed this like interesting medial flare that was to like help guide you and you're like, you know, up in the pace ante a little bit. And at the time it was like, I don't know if there's so many other like brands that are out there. I guess kind of goes back to your point about like just doing their own weird little thing. New Balance was like, hey, can we like just start adding some like weird flair to the midfoot to kind of like help guide you and make that transition a little bit more snappy. Yeah. And so this shoe was also kind of like doing some small like spearhead efforts to kind of like bring that V1 story to life. So that lateral flare was kind of like brought in. But one thing we started to do, I don't know if you really even see it that well, but like we started to kind of like crown the very forefoot of this. So you like would roll through, but then you would also like rapidly kind of like head off your like medial, you know, big toe. And it was like, it was small stuff, but like, I did think there was like, I guess what I should say and what this shoe like taught me was that like little things that you can like challenge will be felt. And whether or not that kind of like delivers the experience that you're looking to communicate or convey with the runner, it's like it totally needs to be tested and validated. But like that's where I learned that, you know, things that you consider to be kind of what somewhat static or conventional can be like just massaged, and just through that little bit of like tweaking you can really deliver something completely new. Right. And the smallest little thing can like change, affect the impact, you know, in ways that you can potentially hopefully control. Right. But it got, you know, it shows that there was a lot of experience and a lot of intuition that can kind of come into play and, you know, drive out some, you know, some cool stuff. Right. But then something else that this shoe had that I loved, I don't think anyone loves us nearly as much as I do, but you know, here I am sitting here telling you, this lenticular badge fought tooth and nail to keep this thing in
I didn't know it. I didn't know it changed.
It changed between New Balance and FuelCell depending on the lighting. It was like totally inspired from those Scholastic Book Fair bookmarks. And
you fought so hard. I didn't know it was lenticular until you said it. That's so cool.
It was, and so like, you know, back to our conversation about like the creative vision, preseason sketch sessions. One of the things that we brought up with this season of product was this idea of shift. It was like, oh, how can we shift the expectations of running shoes? And this was literally my like communication to be like, oh, we're shifting the, you know, some sort of silly little branding thing, but you know, that was a thumbnail sketch, and I think I had a bookmark that I even like pinned up on the board the one day. Yeah, and you know, everyone kind of like, it's silly, and it is silly, but you know, darn it, if we can't have a little fun with what we do,
and you should, man.
And we should, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it's just shoes, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
That's what everyone says. Sure, spent a lot of time thinking about it though.
Yeah. All right, questions for me on this shoe that I would love to ask the designer. Like, is there a reason for triangles, like on the bottom?
Triangles, that was inspired from another product that was in the range at that time. It was a 5280, and it had a triangular FMR outsole, float molded rubber. And so it was like, you're just a kind of like family franchise. Right. Okay. Nothing specific with the geometry.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden I'm like, man, there's triangles. What in the world?
There's triangles everywhere.
I think there's a New Balance shoe coming out that has another shape, and I'm like, why is the shape like that?
The shape changes. Yeah.
Who's deciding this stuff?
Yeah. On this one, the more important thing was just to have the 3mm rubber, and we were like, you know what, everything else can kind of just be decorative.
Right. Interesting. Which I know how like intense outsoles can be. Looks pretty good. Like
it's an arms race for the most interesting shadows and highlights.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Always what I always say.
Yeah. Are you? Wait, what did you say?
Oh, I always joke that like doing an outsole is like an arms race to like whoever can create the most interesting highlights and shadows from the different kind of
Yeah.
shapes and stuff that kind of goes into it.
Yeah, and man, it's interesting. Yeah, did you have to fight very hard to get these cutouts?
Cutouts were tricky. Yeah. and with no radius, that was another sticking point.
You know,
because radius, we love a good radius.
You New Balance types. You guys get whatever you ask for.
It was a fight.
Wow, there are no radiuses on that.
Yeah, actually,
I would have given on that immediately.
Yeah, I know, and I think we were close to it, but then, and like in retrospect, that wasn't a hill to die on. I think it probably creates a lot more like headache and stress for the the production side to be able to kind of pull that off. And it is funny the more with age comes wisdom, or maybe even just like I guess. Not sadness, but guilt. It's like, the things that sometimes, we kind of want to insist upon, like, are potentially disastrous or, painful for a factory person to have to kind of come up, and make. And I'm like, I don't want to give anyone a bad day.
I did. Yeah. Right. I did talk about, an early episode before we had any like subscribers. I talked about like what it's like being in Asia. I was in Vietnam recording the episode.
Oh wow, okay.
And I was just like sitting here like, and I had just done like a factory visit and walked the line and saw people making my stuff, and I was like, when you're over here,
you're like, it's kind of like airing out your dirty laundry.
See,
like, what have I done?
You see it, you're like, oh man, when I draw a line, it really affects a lot of people.
Yeah. Like doing an interesting kind of like closing construction. It's like, oh, but have you tried to turn that inside out to do that closing construction? And you're like, no. And you're like, well, they're going to have to. It's like, okay, you're right.
Right.
I won't do that anymore. It's a really good point.
Other things for me is like, was there anything that was inspiring the blocking like down the middle? Because when we saw that, I was like, man, I've never seen a shoe block like that. That's pretty dope. Is there a story?
There was a little bit of a story there. So again, when talking about that V1, kind of idea that the faster you go, potentially the more you're going to supinate and like land on the outside of the foot and kind of like roll in. It was like a visual cue to be like when you're kind of like rotating in on your lateral side, kind of where's your like takeoff strip.
Yeah.
So you're like, if it was a centered kind of strip, like a peg turbo that we see these days, it's like, if you are kind of like off camber a little bit, your stripes can be off camber. So it's kind of like a little visual nod. Whether or not people are that like focused on their feet when they're running as fast as the shoe is intended to run, no one's looking directly down at their feet, but
yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah, if you're thinking like you're this way, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's like it's not a straight line.
Not a straight line, just a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah, pretty nice. And I see some details where like you're doing like a toe cap kind of, or like some kind of traditional cue to running.
And if we want to talk about some things I wish I had improved, which is probably another fun thing to talk about from a designer side. Like there's always something to work on. Is I probably would have fortified the midsole bite line more with the solid areas of that mesh.
Oh yeah.
Just because it was a little bit too flimsy in the flexo.
Sure.
So there was some issues where people were blowing out the sides of the mesh. And I'm
like, crap. Yeah,
it's a shame when the upper kind of like gives before the outsole does, or like the midsole does.
Yeah. You want the opposite big time.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like I want the shoe to last as long as I can like physically stand underneath my foot. Not that like the upper blows up before the sauce is lost.
Yeah, right. But I love the tongue. I remember that being just like not groundbreaking, but I feel like just being like, oh man, like can't get much more simple than that. Just like a mesh laminated onto
mesh foam and spacer knits. That has like a pretty tight fray tolerance.
Yeah, and then you just blow a bunch of holes out of it, and it's like now you see this all the time. I don't know how many tongues like this existed previous, but
there were some I'm trying to think too. I think there might actually been a Jordan that was in the same vein as this. But
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's it does the job.
Yeah, and then when you drew the rendering that had us all like, what? Was that after the fact? Was that during?
There were some. Let's say that was a post product sketch, but there were some earlier ones that kind of got the sell and stuff, because everyone has to do a little spicy thing at Design Review 3 or Final Design Review to get people excited.
Man, it's just awesome.
Actually, all right. Here's one last little fun detail.
Sure.
This is where I just love to kind of like do little like Easter egg things that like people who are in the know and appreciate.
Yeah.
There's one aglet here and there's no aglet here.
Yeah.
The reason for that was, again, going back to the Rebel V1, it was I think we call it TFP, but like a corded IRO that was embroidered.
Yeah.
And one of our product managers who was working on this project with me, he was running in the V1. I think we were doing some like tooling setups, like midsole foam setups on that V1 to kind of like, hey, this is validated. This is a good direction for the V2. And he kept on ripping the cord. He was ripping the cord out constantly.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, crap, like I can't run this shoe because I keep on ripping the upper.
Yeah.
And he was like, we were just giving him a hard time. So we're like, you know what? We'll just put like a nice little aglet here, so that way you won't be able to rip through that side. So that was just for
hilarious.
him. Yeah.
I noticed it, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, this is a fun little like weird thing.
But it's a metal aglet.
It's a metal aglet.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, that's not gonna rip. But it's like, it is a little weird because like you would normally have your metal aglet be the top one, right? Because that's where you really like give a crank down.
Yeah.
But he was blown out like the second to last, and so we're like, okay, well,
man, the spacing from here to here
is pretty far, actually.
Pretty far.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty far that shoe.
It's interesting. You said this is your wife's like own personal...
Yeah, she has a pair on ice whenever. I think she actually still has a pair that's in her current rotation, but like it sees so little use. She has more shoes these days now.
That's so interesting that your wife just keeps a pair.
Yeah.
Is that a normal function? Is that a normal thing that happens?
No, she's recently, or she has since stopped picking up all the shoes that I've worked on. So I'm like, if she did, she would have more than me because I don't even keep the shoes I work on.
Oh wow. Yeah. Just whip through these.
Yeah. Well, I won't go into that just as depth. Yeah.
This is out right now.
This is out right now. Yeah, this is the Minimus Trail. This is one of the last shoes I worked on before seeing myself out the door. But yeah, this one was a fun one. I think just because it was like, it's just the absolute opposite. During the same season I was working on this. This is a prototype of the More V4 that is also out in the market right now.
Yep.
But in the same season I was working on like one of our thinnest shoes and one of our like tallest shoes, which I just thought was kind of an interesting kind of like fun counterpoint. I imagine lots of designers have that experience of like working in things that are just the absolute opposite ends of the experience spectrum.
Sure.
But yeah, this shoe, it was just fun to kind of like work with the designer who had pioneered the original Minimus shoe. His name is Chris Warsack.
Yeah.
Still at New Balance today. And it was a great experience of like working with him to be able to like, hey, what did, what were the insights that led to the original Minimus and how can we kind of like improve upon some of those things?
Yeah.
And, it was just, again, like, I think we're all looking to kind of like learn and grow. And, he was one of the guys that kind of like showed me the ropes about what was, what existed back then and what can we do to kind of like move things forward. So I guess the most interesting thing is just really the patterning of this shoe.
Yeah. That's the the first thing.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were looking to try to experiment at New Balance was just really efficient nesting and yielding.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously when you cut a material or a piece of, fabric or something, there's going to be a cutting waste that's associated with it. And it's always going to stockpile. Resultant trash needs to be incinerated.
Right.
So all the shapes that we were looking to try to do here were designed to be nested as well to create as little like cutting loss as possible.
Nice.
So the two mudguard panels like fit together like this, and they basically form like a rectangle in terms of their pattern shape.
Yep.
Which is a pretty repeatable, very low cutting waste material. These back pieces are like a lining material and the vamp plug, and the way that there's like this weird, kind of mustache cavity, is the same shape as the vamp plug. So then like you cut out one single like collar lining, and then you get your vamp plug for free.
What?
So this shoe was really just an exercise to be like, how minimal can we make with our like footprint, at the end of the end of the day. And like there's some of these things are always way better in theory, like I think in actuality, if I was to go and see the cutting room floor for this shoe, I probably wouldn't have it as clean as cutting loss as I was hoping to really provide. But
right.
I think, especially in this day and age, like I think as designers, you really are kind of like, it does start with us, like any of the sustainability initiatives or how we can kind of like improve things,
Right.
Most of the output is decided here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this is also pretty solid. Man, those lugs are intense.
Yeah, I think we might have over-indexed, honestly, on the traction. But that was something that we are like, I wonder if we can like improve that, The previous, MT10 had circular lugs, which offers like really good grip, but very little, if penetrating traction for leading edges and such. So we were like, maybe we can double down the leading edges, and I think we tripled down on them.
Yeah. Okay, pretty cool. I mean, yeah, what's going on with the midfoot? Like this is all sculpting. It's like, man, that would be intense.
Yeah, it's originally kind of designed to be, so one of the insights that we had with the Minimus like program was that people are using the original Minimus shoe for everything from CrossFit workouts and rope climbs and, all sorts of stuff. So we're like, okay, well, the trail product probably should include a little bit of like some, I don't know, some semblance so that you can do that kind of stuff in this shoe as well.
Interesting. Yeah. I like this thing. I've seen it online. I didn't know you had any part in it actually.
Oh yeah, no, it's last little baby.
Yeah, like this is pretty legit. Like it's one of those ones where like,
great team.
Oh man, and you lace through the tongue.
Yeah, little. Didn't gusset it or do any other little, kind of like lace holds. So we're like, well, we're perfing it. It's actually now I'm had the Rebel on the table next to it. It's like I'm starting to develop a handwriting. I'm noticing.
Whoops.
Guess which one Seth worked on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that even had this story to it. This is something I tried to do at Brooks, was try to do like waste management as well.
Yeah,
like trying to like nest parts and stuff, and it's like it's a really hard thing to think about and to like make something compelling with what you do.
Yeah, because you can have like a perfectly nest of like puzzle piece patterns that kind of come together, but then it's like, well, what am I looking at here? And you're like, well, yeah, it's I don't know.
Yeah, right. Like,
it's tricky.
Yeah, right. This is I just love the textures. I mean, you got like nice 4-foot mesh. You've got I can only imagine it. Yeah, it looks like a spacer, right? It's like it's not like a Reoprene or anything like that.
No,
it's like
a spacer material. It's actually
package.
the same mesh that's on the original Minimus. We're like, well, we'll just keep that in operation and keep those mills
Nice.
Keep those mills running.
I like the no counter. You got that going on.
Yeah, that was a controversial take. But I was like, but again, like kind of going back to the cutting efficiency, I was like, to make a heel cutting pattern, it's tricky to do. So I was like, well, what can we get away with? Like, do we need it? And we had some testers running these shoes, and they're like, yeah, I think we're fine.
Right.
If you read reviews, that's the one thing that gets constantly knocked.
Yeah, right.
For valid reasons, absolutely.
Do you read reviews?
I used to not, because I was like, well, I don't want to have a bad day, but I'm like, well, actually, I'm at a point in time now where maybe the personal sensitivity to things is like a little bit lower. I just realized there's always going to be someone who's going to have a negative experience, but that's the person I can learn the most from. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. I love it when people love the shoe, but I really learn the most when people don't.
Absolutely. Okay, any last words? I mean, there is one more sample.
Yeah, there's one more sample, but it's mostly the counterpoint. And also kind of illustrate too, this isn't representative of anything that the final shoe, the More V4 that you can find on the website now is, but it also just comes to show that through every product, there's a journey and a story behind it, and there's some grand ideas, there's some not so grand ideas, but whatever you see that you kind of is on shelves, there's always something more to it, which is always cool to know.
Right.
Which I love learning about other people's experiences too. So
yeah, how do you go about when someone asks, when revision time comes, when you've done the first one and you feel pretty good about it, but there's changes coming.
Yeah. There's someone who's going to make a comment that, you're like, oh, gee, I got to start over.
Yeah, you got to act on well, I guess what I'm trying to find out from interviewing other designers is that experience universal? Are you reacting to it in a positive way, negative way? Are you reacting? Do you take a minute? Do you find points valid? Are you able to sift through and be like, oh, that one makes sense. That one's coming from left field. Who cares about that? And how are you how are you ingesting? How are you ingesting and processing? Because I feel like when we work on stuff, it's our work and we get close to it.
It's bred from you, we're in many ways kind of the fountainhead of the results. So 100%, I can't speak to everyone, about the universality of it. But I definitely think it's very common. I haven't met one designer who has not had first proto blow up where they're like, all right, back to the drawing board. And so then you're kind of going back through your preseason sketches and trying to find the, something else that might have a different flavor that gets people excited or whatever. Yeah. And from my, I guess early on, of course, the person, it hurts. It hurts to have something, that you're kind of vulnerable about. You want people to really enjoy it and appreciate it, and to get a comment that's it's not good enough. You're like, sure. Well, then I'm not good enough. Oh no. And I've just kind of started to learn that okay, there's something there. And even to read past some of the comments that are made, because sometimes sometimes if a PM who's making a decision who has to evaluate this and bring it to retailers or distributors or whatever, what have you, whoever's doing the buying, they're trying to make comments that kind of get you through this, but they aren't maybe articulating the way that is actually needs to be expressed. So they'll be saying things like, well, I don't like the heel tab. Well, I don't like, I think we need to change this. I don't think this is going to work. And it's well, is it actually those things, or is there something deeper? And I've kind of, over time, I think we all kind of have a little bit of experience to know what those signs are when there's when comments are being made that are just surface level, but you really need to dig deeper into what they really mean. And I've learned from that there's no personal oh, well, you chose this webbing and that webbing's garbage, so it means your taste is garbage. I'm no, that's not actually what they mean. They're saying something deeper. And I do often, whenever I hear end of a leadership summit meeting or something, someone says hey, we're gonna have a chat about this tomorrow, and try to think about what we're gonna do. I'm I'm not even gonna ask what. I'm just gonna go home and just kind of like ingest it, let it, process it, and just come back in the next day and like really kind of like come in with a new perspective and a good night's sleep,
Yeah, right. That's healthy. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well put.
How do you take that? Now I'm just curious because I'm kind of
it's just like I feel like there's not anyone that I've come across with now. Well, it is fun because I feel like I'm interviewing some of like who I feel are like successful designers. Like they know how to get the job done. Like I feel like you and Valerie and John and Daniel are all like, they've gotten product out. They know how to talk the talk.
Yeah.
And
yourself
like,
included,
I guess, like I feel like I've done it too, but like I've asked that question because I just like, I don't know if my reactions are like the best. Because I don't know if I ever had a model. Like no one, like there's no one who's like, when you get feedback and it's like not your favorite, like, don't clam up or, whatever no one has like a mantra for that. It's
right. That's so
it's
true.
like you just go through it. And I think like, and you're saying it, like I've had that thought, like, well, is it me? Is it like, am I deficient?
Right.
Like, it's like, not necessarily. And I think nowadays, like I have, and a lot of people say like, well, you can take their thing or you can leave it. And I'm like, and I've gotten to the point where I like realize that you can leave it, but like every move has like a like a reaction.
Yeah, totally.
And so like if I leave that move, then that person now thinks they're deficient.
Right.
Right. And so I've kind of learned like, oh shoot, like whoops, like, well, I just didn't want to do that thing. Sorry. And it ends up being fine in the long run. But no, I've had different, like throughout my career has been like, there's different modes of reaction where like early on in my career was like very devastating.
Yes. Yeah.
Now it's like I've had enough happen where I realize it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Right.
And you're going to find the conclusion that you need to come to. It's just like, you're just going to have to put pen to paper and get going.
That's extremely true. Yeah. And for anyone listening who's starting out, like, and that kind of situation occurs where you're in that zone where your work that you are very proud of gets like critiqued in a way that is harmful or destructive, like just know that is, unfortunately, it's part of the process and it's kind of what you go through to grow,
Yeah. It is one of those things where when people say like, I want to be a footwear designer, it is like the first thing where I'm like, well, are you sure?
Yeah, right.
Like how tough are you? Like how
what's the worst design critique you've had in school?
Yeah.
Double it.
Double it, triple it,
right?
Whatever you like, because and then add to it like, there's a business that needs something, or like, have people like, I try to tell people like, well, be prepared to like be taken off a project. Like, how's that gonna affect you if you are doing something, and then they say, you know what, you gave it a good try, but we need to have this senior guy come in and fix everything. You're like, oh my word.
Yeah, that's,
you wonder if you're going to get fired.
Yeah,
you're like, what is going to happen to me? That's the type of stuff. Like, I don't know. Like I don't know if I even have like a good reaction to stuff now. Like I do. It's definitely a lot more contained, where it's like my early life, I was like very like vocal. I'd be like, whoa, that's not the thing.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to
listen here, buddy. Yeah.
And now it's more like, oh, interesting. And then you just kind of like take a minute, and then maybe it will be like later I'll vent to my wife or something, or like, have to go for a run, or intentionally not do that product for a day, or like, you find ways of you find ways of coping. Or you ask someone and maybe someone provides an idea, and then you see like, oh, there is there is like an avenue where this can go that still represents what I want to do, but it's different, but it's better.
Yeah.
And you realize that like at the end of the day, like the product is going to maybe be better in the end because you're giving it more passes.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, absolutely right.
I don't know if that's a great answer.
It's also like another like thing I've been thinking about too is like, if you have the luxury of passes and the luxury of time, like take it, because like exactly what we're kind of talking about, like whenever something or whenever projects aren't meeting the needs of what the leadership or consumer or what have you like wants, use it as a goalpost, and then like where's the other goalpost, and then once you kind of like define what those things are, like take the opposite, like the absolute opposite things that we're working here and move it to the next option that you kind of produce. And then if that's also not working, then where there's in between, like space between those things that kind of like helps. And it's almost like, I guess, we're both saying the same thing. It's like, it's kind of like removing the personal kind of like attack from this, like the situation, and using it as like objective data. Like this objectively has comments or is receiving comments. Like use that data to kind of like drive a path forward versus like using that data to kind of like overwhelm you and like suffocate you, being like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough anymore. Yeah.
Interesting. Very good. And that's a skill in itself.
Yeah. It takes time. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right on. I have not forgotten the Ghost Max conversation. We will end up with that somehow.
Nice. Want to hear more about that?
Yeah. Do you want me to sketch with you or without you?
Well, all right.
I will kind of dealer's choice that, because I can do either. I feel like,
I honestly, I would love to see you sketch.
All right.
We can play it like pretty fast and loose though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
because we're slightly over, but I don't want to All right. So basically what has to happen then is I need to switch the cameras up.
All right.
So you can take a break.